Maybe you should leave Mark. This party's for family only, right there in front of everyone. Have you ever been told to walk away from your own son's wedding by the woman he's about to marry? Before we jump in, I want to know where in the world are you right now and what time are you listening? Let me know in the comments. The night of my son's wedding began with noise, laughter, music, the hum of people trying to be happy together. The waiters moved smoothly, the guests glittered in silver and navy, and I kept reminding myself this was Ethan's day. My job was to stay out of the way and look proud. Grace came over smiling too politely. "Mark," she said, "maybe you should head out. This part's for family only." For a second, I thought she was joking. Then I saw the faces around us, averted eyes, tight smiles. Ethan stood beside her, still as stone. I waited for him to speak. He didn't. "Sure," I said. "You two enjoy the evening." My voice stayed calm, though something in me cracked. Walking to the door, I caught pieces of whispers. The cold hit when I stepped out, sharp and clean. Cars moved along the river road, headlights sweeping across wet pavement. I didn't feel angry, only small, smaller than I'd been in years. I sat in the car without starting it, staring at the restaurant lights in the mirror. I'd paid for almost everything venue banned flowers. All so she could tell me to leave. Hands gripping the wheel, I tried to swallow it down, but the bitterness stayed. I'd worked late shifts, fixed Ethan's car, covered his rent, never asked for anything back. I thought love meant endurance. Now it felt like I'd mistaken silence for dignity. A couple passed, laughing, their reflection flashing in the mirror. I caught my own face there too, crooked eyes, tired. A man who'd stayed too long where he wasn't wanted. I thought of turning back, demanding an answer. But what was left to prove? Pride can make you stand or make you leave. I didn't know which one I was choosing. The engine hummed when I turned the key. I drove toward Quincy headlights, carving a pale path through the dark. The radio was on, but quiet. My hands were tight on the wheel. Halfway across the bridge, I pulled over. The water below churned black. Wind rushed in through the window, cold against my face. One sentence had undone years of effort. This part's for family only. Family. The word felt foreign now. What kind of family asks you to disappear? When I got home, the house was cluttered with leftover boxes from the wedding candles, folded linens, pieces of someone else's celebration. I poured a drink, sat down, and let the ice melt before tasting it. My phone buzzed. Ethan's name. I watched it fade to silence. No voicemail. The clock ticked past midnight. I thought of texting, but words didn't sit right anymore. They got stuck halfway up my throat. Let out a dry laugh. "Family only," I muttered. The words drifted into the night. Morning came soft and gray. The suit jacket hung over a chair, the tie still knotted. My phone blinked with messages I didn't want to hear. Calls started early, the restaurant, the florist, the band. Each one cheerful, efficient, asking for the final payments. I told them I'd call back. Then sat at the table staring at the cold coffee machine, wondering when simple things started feeling like judgment. When the coffee finished brewing, I poured a cup, but didn't taste it. Bitterness filled my mouth, the same way thoughts crowded my head. The phone buzzed a message from one of Ethan's friends. "Rough night, huh? Don't take it personally." Grace gets nervous about appearances. That word again. Appearances. It had followed every step of the planning, the menu, the dress code, the river view. Nothing about love, just image. I opened my email expecting work updates, but found invoices instead. The total glared at me. Years of savings turned to digits. I almost paid it out of habit, but my hand froze. Something in me refused. The doorbell rang. Linda stood there with a bakery bag, her tone brisk as always. "You look awful," she said, walking past me. "I've looked worse." She placed the bag on the counter and pulled a folder from her purse. Remember signing those payment contracts? They're under your name. I paid most of it, not all, which means you still have leverage. She pointed at a page. There's a clause that lets you dispute the rest if you were publicly humiliated. I rubbed my face. You think this is about money? No, she said. It's about respect. Sometimes the only language people understand is cost. Her words landed hard. I'd spent a lifetime giving time money forgiveness, believing decency protected me. It never had. She slid the folder toward me. You can stop the payments today. It's your right. I stared at the papers, then at the cooling coffee. If I do that, they'll call me petty. They already think worse, she said. At least this way you're not paying for your own humiliation. She left the folder on the counter. Do what you want, but don't let their version of you become the truth. After she left the house, quieted. The invoices sat where she'd placed them beside the chair Ethan used to fill phone in hand, half listening while I talked just to keep him there. I couldn't remember our last real conversation. My phone buzzed. Ethan, this time, Grace feels terrible. She didn't mean to offend you. She just wanted to keep things organized. I typed, glad the wedding went well, then erased it. Normal life carried on somewhere beyond the walls. I ran the tap, washed the dishes, and let the motion steady me. When the sink cleared, I opened my laptop. The email wrote itself, "Please suspend remaining payments pending review." My finger hovered, then pressed send. It wasn't much, but it shifted something small, certain, irreversible. The phone rang again. I ignored it, poured another cup of coffee, and sat back. The bitterness had cooled, but I drank it anyway. Another invoice arrived. I closed the laptop. Decision made. The clock ticked softly. Linda's words returned, "Don't let their silence rewrite who you are." Maybe she was right. Maybe all those quiet years hadn't been grace at all, just surrender. The day dragged on. Emails kept coming, permits, invoices, small reminders of things that no longer mattered. Each keystroke felt heavier, as if replying cost something I didn't owe. I sent one last message. Hold all remaining charges until further notice. No explanation. That afternoon, the calls began. A manager left a careful voicemail, polite but tense. Then Grace's mother, her sweetness sharp as vinegar. "We understand this might be confusing for you, Mark, but it's best for everyone if you just let the payments process." I ignored it and went back to my desk. The blueprint in front of me had blurred into meaningless lines. Work wasn't passion anymore, just upkeep, like watering something that wouldn't grow. By 4, Ethan called. His voice carried that rehearsed calm he used when he wanted to sound reasonable. "Dad, Grace told me about the money. You can't just freeze everything. People are panicking. People I asked. You mean the ones who told me to leave?" He hesitated. "You're blowing this out of proportion. That's what you think this is." He exhaled, weary. "Grace didn't mean anything by it. She just didn't want things to get awkward." "Then she got what she wanted," I said. "No awkwardness. I'm gone." He paused again. "You're hurting her reputation and mine." I almost told him about the years spent patching his mistakes, the nights lying awake, but the words stayed stuck. "You'll figure it out," I said instead. The call ended on his silence. It felt heavier than anger. I went for a walk through Quincy's damp streets, puddles still shining from yesterday's rain. Cars passed light, rippling across the pavement. I didn't know where I was going, only that I couldn't sit still anymore. At a stoplight, I checked my phone. A text from an unknown number. "You don't know half of what she said about you. Call me if you want the rest." Attached was a photo of the empty wedding venue chairs, stacked tables bare. Then another line. "She told the staff you were using the wedding for publicity. Said you paid to look generous. So that was the story now. Not a father giving, but a man trying to buy attention. My chest tightened. I leaned against the streetlight, the metal cold through my sleeve. A man passed with a grocery bag and a child in tow. Their smallness, their ordinariness made everything sharper. I typed back, "Who is this?" No answer. The number vanished minutes later. Back home, the invoices still waited. One click could have ended it. Pay, move on, pretend none of this mattered. But I couldn't go backward. While cleaning the counter, I found an old photo under a magnet, Ethan at 12, holding a fishing rod, his grin too big for his face. He'd caught nothing that day, but called it perfect anyway. I used to think of that memory as proof I'd done something right. Now it only confused me. How does someone who once looked at you with pride stop seeing you at all? The kitchen light hummed faintly. I kept cleaning moving things just to keep moving. A notification flashed Grace's post, smiling with Ethan under the caption, "New Beginnings." Blessed beyond measure. The comments were full of hearts until one cut through her father-in-law's money sure paid off. It wasn't the words, it was the mockery behind them. I closed the app and turned the phone face down. The clock read 8. I made a sandwich. I didn't want 8, half left the rest. The hum of the refrigerator filled the space. Somewhere in that quiet clarity surfaced. Grace hadn't only humiliated me, she'd used me. And Ethan had stood there letting it happen. What came next wasn't rage, it was correction. A slow return to balance. I closed the fridge, stood still, then reached for the phone and called Linda. "Change of plans," I said. Her tone didn't shift. I figured. I asked for contact details for the venue and catering. She promised to send them. When the email arrived, I saved it under a new folder. Final steps. I didn't know exactly what the end would look like, but I knew it had begun. This time, I wasn't the one being pushed. The phone buzzed again early the next morning. A woman introduced herself as part of Grace's family, her politeness stretched thin. She invited me to a small dinner, something to clear the air. I almost said no. Then I thought about what Linda told me. Silence lets people rewrite you. So I said I'd come. The day dragged. Work didn't help. I clicked through emails, signed an inspection form, but my thoughts stayed fixed on the dinner. What did they really want to clear? I hadn't spoken to Ethan since the call. Every time I thought about reaching out, I saw him standing beside Grace, head down, hands clasped, as if he were watching another man's father being dismissed. At home, I changed into something plain. The restaurant they'd chosen was close by, the kind of place where people pretend to fix things over overpriced wine. I arrived early, habit I couldn't break. Grace's parents were already seated. Grace appeared soon after, Ethan trailing behind. She greeted me as if nothing had happened. "Mark, I'm so glad you came." Her hand brushed my arm before she sat. The move was polished, not warm. The conversation stayed shallow at first, the weather, their honeymoon, the apartment. Then Grace leaned forward. "I heard there's been some confusion with the payments," she said. "Confusion." Her father jumped in. "We know you've been under stress. Weddings are emotional. Let's not make this into a spectacle." A waiter poured wine. No one touched it. "It's not a spectacle," I said. "I'm reviewing the contracts. Until then, the payments stop." Grace's mouth tightened. "That's unnecessary. People talk, Mark. It's embarrassing for everyone. Then they should stop talking." She tilted her head. "You don't want to hurt Ethan's reputation, do you?" Something in the way she said his name felt like ownership. I turned to Ethan. He stared at the tablecloth fork, trembling. "I think I've done enough to protect him." Grace's mother whispered something to her husband. Grace forced a wider smile. You've always been particular. Ethan warned me. That word warned hung there. Heat rose through me, but I stayed steady. Then he knows me well enough to expect this. Ethan finally looked up. Dad, can we not do this here? Where then? I asked. Seems anywhere I go, someone tells me what I can't do. He sighed, small and defeated. This isn't helping. Grace leaned back, satisfied. Let's move on. No need to ruin a happy memory. The waiter returned with dessert, glossy and untouched. I stood before it reached the table. You're right, I said. No need to ruin it. No one stopped me. The evening breeze carried salt from the harbor as I crossed the lot. My hands stayed steady, though my chest felt tight. Linda stood by my truck, a folder tucked under her arm. You went? She said. I did. And they showed their hand. She nodded. Here, contracts, invoices, everything. You'll want these. What for? In case they push harder. People change fast when money's on the line. I took the folder. I'm not looking to fight. Then call it insurance. We stood quietly. The restaurant lights glimmered through the trees. From a distance came a burst of brittle laughter, Grace's voice among them. Linda asked. You holding up? I'm fine, I said, though I wasn't. Then rest, she told me. You've earned it. As I opened the truck door, she turned back once. You don't always have to be the bigger man. I didn't answer. She left it there. The drive home was short. Streetlights smeared across the windshield. Their rhythm steadied me. At home, I dropped the folder on the counter, poured a glass of water, and stood still for a while. The phone buzzed. Ethan. You didn't have to leave like that. I typed back. I stayed longer than I should have, then erased it. Past 10. I kicked off my shoes, loosened my collar, opened the folder. Page after page, proof of what I'd given money, signatures, promises. Every document carried my name. At the bottom of one invoice, Grace's handwriting caught me off guard. Confirm payment with Mark before the weekend. He's easy to handle. The line landed harder than anything she'd said aloud. Then I reached for my phone and wrote to Linda. Let's move forward. 2 mornings later, Linda called. Her tone had that quiet focus that meant something was about to shift. You'll want to come by the office, she said. I found something. By the time I arrived, her desk was covered in papers, contracts, receipts, printed emails. She pointed to a clause in the venue agreement. Here. Conduct and reputation. If anyone publicly humiliates or disrespects the payer, the contract can be voided. I read it twice. So they broke it the second Grace spoke. Exactly. You can withdraw the rest legally, cleanly. The clarity startled me. After weeks of tangled words here was something solid. What happens then? They lose every pending payment, catering, photos, venue fees. It'll hurt. Her tone wasn't sharp. It was steady, almost kind, like someone offering medicine. I nodded. Then let's do it. You're sure? She asked. Once this starts, there's no undoing it. I'm done worrying about what they think, I said. I'm just tired of being easy. Linda gave a small, approving nod. Good. Let's make it official. We drafted the notice together, her typing, me reading. The language was cold, legal, but each word felt like it carried years of swallowed pride. She printed the papers, handed me a pen. I signed without hesitation. When it was done, she watched me for a moment. You remind me of my father, she said. He never raised his voice either. Just learned to wear silence like armor. That sounds familiar, I said. By evening, the calls began again. Grace first, then her father. I ignored them. Then Ethan's name appeared. A text followed. You canceled the payments. They're saying you shut everything down. What the hell, Dad? I typed. The contract was violated, then deleted it. Words had stopped fixing anything long ago. Another message. Grace's parents are furious. You're humiliating us. Us. That word stung. I set the phone down, poured a glass of water, spilled some, wiped it slowly until my hands steadied. Linda called soon after. "It's done," she said. "All accounts frozen. Vendors notified." "Good. You might want to stay offline a while. People will talk." "Let them," I said. The night stretched on in fragments, messages piling up screens, lighting, then fading. I shut the phone off. The house grew still, and for once it felt right. A knock came near 10. Ethan stood there, tie loose, face drawn. "You couldn't just call 'come in.'" He stepped through but stayed standing. "They're saying the caterers walked out mid-prep. Grace is humiliated. Do you realize what you've done? I do. You've ruined everything." "No," I said. "I stopped paying for my own disrespect." He searched my face. "She only wanted things to look nice." They did. Until she spoke. He exhaled sharply. "You didn't have to go this far. You watched me get dismissed and said nothing. That was far." He looked away. The quiet between us stretched thin. "Grace is crying," he said finally. "She says people won't forget." "Good. Neither will I." He shook his head. "I don't even know who you are anymore." "That makes two of us." He left without slamming the door. I listened to his car fade down the street, my chest tight, not from guilt, but from the weight of being unseen. The folder from Linda lay on the table. I opened it again, scanning the pages, needing proof that I hadn't imagined the disrespect. Grace's handwriting waited at the bottom of one invoice confirm payment with Mark before the weekend. He's easy to handle. The line landed harder than anything else that week. I sat back, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. My father's voice came to mind. "When you pay for someone's comfort with your dignity, the debt never ends." Now I understood. The next days passed slowly, like a machine easing to a stop after running too long. I went to work, did what was needed, spoke only when necessary. Linda called often, but briefly. "They're scrambling," she told me one afternoon. "The venue's holding their deposit. The caterers are threatening to sue. Everyone's asking who's responsible, and what do you tell them? The truth. They should call the person who signed the contract." I almost smiled. "That'll be an interesting call." "Probably," she said. "But not your problem anymore." She was right, though it didn't feel like victory. More like standing across the street from a fire you didn't start it. But the heat still reached you. At work, the drills and hammers were a comfort. The crew didn't mention the wedding mess, though a few glances lingered longer than usual. Word always traveled faster than it should. I was grateful no one asked. That evening, while reviewing blueprints, an unfamiliar email arrived. "You should see this." Against my better judgment, I opened it. Grace again posed at some charity event captioned, "Learning to Rise Above Negativity." The comments cut deeper than her smile. Strangers speculated, blamed, called me jealous, controlling, bitter. One line stuck: "Old men with money always think they can buy love." I closed the laptop. My hands trembled, not with anger but disbelief. That's how fast a story turns. She humiliates you, and somehow you're the villain for not applauding. Sleep never came. The ceiling fan spun slow circles while I replayed every time I'd chosen silence over confrontation. Grace had read that weakness in me from the start. By morning, Linda called again. "You might want to sit down," she said. Their lawyer sent a letter. Grace's family's claiming defamation. I laughed. Defamation for what? For existing, apparently. It's baseless, but they'll make noise. Let them. I'm done defending myself. Later, I cleaned the garage just to stay busy. Dust-stacked boxes, half-finished projects, the kind of work that asked nothing but time. I found an old radio, turned it on, then off again, when a talk show about forgiveness came through. Toward dusk, I sat on the back steps with a beer. Across the street, neighborhood kids tossed a baseball, shouting over each other. I hadn't realized how still the house had become, until then. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. They're planning to release a statement about you. No name, no warning. A moment later, an email notification appeared. Grace's PR firm's announcement: due to unforeseen family conflicts, Mrs. Walters and her husband have faced unfair treatment from certain individuals. They hope to move forward in peace. No name, but everyone would know. Linda called that night. I saw it. Don't respond. I'll handle it. I wasn't planning to, I said. Good. Let their noise fade. Truth lasts longer than gossip. After we hung up, I sat in the dim kitchen, the lamp throwing a small circle of light across the table. Then came a soft thud at the doormail through the slot. A single thick envelope lay on the floor. Law firm letterhead, a preliminary claim of damages. I let it fall to the floor and poured a glass of water, tracing the ring it left on the table. At the sight, everyone kept their distance. Grace's story had reached a local talk show, a woman mistreated by her father-in-law. No name needed. The air was thick with what people didn't say. I walked the floor, checked the renovation, signed a form the foreman handed over without looking up. We're short on concrete, he muttered. I nodded and left early. My head was crowded with voices: Grace's public sympathy, Ethan's silence, Linda's caution. I drove aimlessly until the harbor appeared. The sky was steel gray, the tide-restless boats pulled too tight against their ropes. I sat on a bench watching gulls pick at scraps until the phone rang. They're pushing harder, Linda said. That letter's just a scare tactic. They can't win, but they'll make noise. I'm not bending. I didn't think you would, but it'll get worse before it settles. Ready for that? The wind carried salt and diesel. I've been through worse. Then hold steady, she said. The law's with you. I'll manage the noise. After the call, I stayed a while trying to remember when I last felt steady about anything. Maybe back when Ethan still called, just to talk. When silence between us wasn't punishment. A buzz broke the thought. Someone had tagged me in a thread, strangers arguing whether I was bitter or a victim. I scrolled a few lines, then shut the phone. People love stories they can judge from afar, never feeling their weight. By dusk, I was home. The mail waited on the porch, a flyer, a thick envelope from the law firm, and one handwritten note. They're planning to leak your financial records. No signature. I folded it, slipped it into my pocket, and felt the urge to call Ethan. I stopped myself. He wouldn't believe me, or worse, he'd tell her. I called Linda instead. They're going after my finances. Let them, she said. Everything on your end's clean. Desperation makes people careless. I thought of Grace at the wedding, the way she'd said, "This part's for family only." The words had followed me like a stain. Then the doorbell rang. Ethan stood there, soaked through, eyes red. "Dad," he said quiet. "Can we talk?" He didn't take off his jacket, just stood near the entry. "Grace is falling apart. She's getting threats online. People are calling her names." I waited. "She says you started it," he said. "That you're letting it happen." "That's not true, I know," he said, his voice breaking. "But she won't stop crying. I don't know what to do." For a second, I saw the boy he used to be scared, trying to fix what he didn't understand. "Start by telling her the truth," I said. I didn't humiliate her. She did that herself. He rubbed his face. "You think it's that simple?" "No, but it's honest." I poured 2 glasses of water and handed him one. He took it, hand shaking. "I'm sorry," he said, "for not stopping her that night. I thought staying quiet would help." "It never does," I said. "Silence gives permission." He stared into his glass. "She's not who I thought she was. Maybe she never was." We stood in a tired kind of quiet. "She's leaving tomorrow," he said. Going to her parents' place. That's probably best. He hesitated, then said, "I'll keep in touch," and turned for the door. "Ethan," I called. He stopped. "Don't let anyone tell you who you are, not even me." He nodded once and left. The next day unfolded in slow fragments. I worked by habit, signing papers, half hearing questions, until Linda texted, "Come by the office." Urgent. When I arrived, she stood with arms crossed, the glow from her monitor soft on her face. "Someone sent me this," she said, turning the screen toward me. A podcast clip played cheap gossip, the kind that feeds on pity. "The poor bride whose father-in-law ruined her wedding," one host said. "Apparently she's filing another complaint." Linda muted it. "They're shaping a story," she said. But they slipped up. One host played a leaked recording. She opened another file. Grace's laugh came through sharp and easy. "He's harmless," she said. "Just a man who thinks money makes him matter. I let him pay for everything because it made him feel useful." The sound hit hard. I didn't speak. "It was sent anonymously to a few outlets," Linda continued. "They cut it before airing, but this is the full version. She bragged about how she handled you. I kept my distance from the desk." "Can I get a copy?" She handed over a flash drive. "You don't need to act on it yet," she said. "But this changes everything. The story's not hers anymore." "I'm not chasing the public," I said. "I just want the truth to stand somewhere." "You have it," she said. "That's more than most people get." I didn't play it again on the drive home. Her voice had already lodged itself deep enough. I thought about Ethan, how it would sound to him, hearing the woman he defended strip me down like that. The sky dimmed to a half-light that never decided on night. A few cars passed. A dog barked somewhere down the block. I imagined the other end of that email, panic denial, maybe both. It didn't matter. The truth was out of their hands. My phone buzzed. "Did you send something to her family?" Ethan asked. I didn't respond. Another came. "Grace's dad is furious. She says someone hacked her phone. Then she should thank the hacker for being honest," I typed back but didn't send. Later I walked through the quiet streets. The park where Ethan once played stood empty, swings creaking in the wind. I could almost see him again, barefoot, laughing, untouched by the weight that would come later. When I got home, Linda's voicemail waited. "It's spreading," she said. "The audio's making rounds online. Keep your head down." I sat on the couch, the drink gone flat. No relief, no triumph, just the stillness that follows a storm you never asked for. Near midnight, Ethan called. I let it ring. He tried again, then left a message. "Dad, everything's falling apart. Grace won't talk to me. Her parents are pulling out of everything. People are calling her a liar. I don't even know if I'm angry or just tired." No goodbye, just the sound of defeat. I stayed up watching headlines appear, "Audio leak exposes bride's words." Grace's image had cracked. The house was still the refrigerator humming in its steady rhythm. I leaned back, eyes closed, listening to that small, mechanical calm. I didn't feel sorry for her anymore. Maybe that made me harder, or maybe I'd just stopped confusing kindness with debt. When the phone lit again, I answered. "They're panicking," Linda said. "Grace's lawyer wants to withdraw everything if you stay quiet." I let the thought sit. "You think I should? I think only you know what peace means now." I glanced at the half-dead flowers by the window, the stack of unopened mail. "Peace," I said. "Haven't trusted that word in a long time." "Maybe it's time you try," she said gently. After we hung up, I rinsed the empty glass, left it upside down to dry. The world held its breath. I stood there, not waiting, just listening to the slow, steady tick of the clock. I woke late to the phone buzzing against the nightstand. Messages stacked, Ethan, unknown numbers, one from Linda. "We need to talk today." The leak had spread. I didn't need headlines to tell me. Even the quiet felt different, like a room after something's broken. Downstairs, the coffee machine hissed, while headlines filled my screen. The Bride Who Lied. Leaked audio reveals manipulation behind viral wedding drama. Each one showed Grace's smiling face, now familiar to people who'd never met her. Ethan's text was buried between them. Why did you do this? You've destroyed her. Another followed. You could have come to me first. I typed a reply, erased it, set the phone aside. Nothing I said would sound like anything but justification. At Linda's office, coffee waited. It's chaos out there, she said, sliding a newspaper across the desk. Grace's name sprawled across the front page beside mine. She's not denying it now, Linda went on. Her lawyer's calling it stress, emotional exhaustion, anything but deceit. She'll cry on camera, I said. Tears repair faster than truth. Linda studied me. You're not celebrating. What's there to celebrate? You exposed her. Took back your story. No one wins, I said. They just stop pretending. She let that hang, then asked, what now? I want out, I said. Let them live in their own noise. That's probably the smartest thing you've said since this started. The sky outside sagged gray again. I walked through the frame of a half-built living room, beams arching above like open ribs. There was honesty in things still under construction. Mistakes stayed visible long enough to fix. A car door slammed behind me. Ethan, I had to find you here, he said. You're not answering. I've been busy. He gave a short, dry laugh. Busy. You dropped a bomb and disappeared. Our lives ended the day she told me to leave. She didn't mean it like that. She said it in front of everyone. He rubbed his face. You humiliated her. You humiliated me. She did that herself. I just stopped paying for it. You could have talked to me first. She made it public when she turned my quiet into weakness. I just returned the favor. You're proud of that? No, I said. But I'm done apologizing for existing. He looked at me, searching, unsettled. You've changed. I stopped mistaking patience for love. The wind moved through the frame, rattling sheets of metal. She's gone, he said finally. Grace left this morning. Her parents cut her off. Everyone's turned away. I stayed still. She told me she wished she'd never met me. That's not on you, I said. Doesn't make it hurt less. No, I said. It won't. He looked around the empty house skeleton. I don't know what happens now. Neither do I. He turned to go. I just wanted to understand why you did it this way. Because it was the only way left. He didn't look back. Before bed, I checked my phone. No new calls? The last message from Ethan still glowed. I need time. Linda called before I could sit down with coffee. Her tone was clipped. They've filed for an emergency hearing. Grace's lawyer claims the audio was edited. They want a retraction. I rubbed my temple. Of course they do. I'll handle the paperwork, she said. But you'll have to show up. They're forcing confrontation. The word stayed with me. I hadn't seen Grace since that dinner, hadn't heard her voice beyond that recording. Part of me wanted to refuse, let the lawyers handle it while I stayed quiet. But quiet had built this mess. What time? 10 sharp. Courthouse downtown. Morning traffic crawled, everyone rushing as if lateness carried punishment. The courthouse steps looked worn, the kind of stone that had seen too many people trying to justify themselves. Linda met me in the hallway, papers under her arm. Stay calm, she said. Don't rise to her bait. I wasn't planning to talk, I said. Grace arrived with her father and lawyer, polished but brittle. Ethan trailed behind, eyes down. We didn't speak. We just shared the same air until it was time. Her lawyer started first, steady, rehearsed. My client was misrepresented. The audio was manipulated, causing severe emotional distress. Linda rose. The file's verified. Independent experts confirmed it's authentic. What hurt wasn't the leak, it was the truth. The judge glanced up. Mrs. Walters Grace stood trembling just enough to draw sympathy. I was under pressure. People twisted my words. I never meant to hurt anyone, least of all my husband's father. My husband's father. Not Mark, not family. She turned toward me. He misunderstood everything. Something in me hardened. I stood. You told a room full of people I wasn't family, I said. Even the waiters heard. I didn't misunderstand, Mr. Ellis, the judge began. I'll be brief, I said. All I did was stop paying for her version of respect. The rest was her trying to live off my silence. Her expression cracked, first surprise, then anger. The judge sighed. That's enough. I've heard enough. He called a recess. I stepped into the hall. Ethan followed. Why'd you have to do that? He asked. Because she still thinks she owns the story. She's ruined. Everyone knows. Then maybe she'll understand invisibility, I said. He lowered his head. I didn't want this. Neither did I. Linda returned. They'll settle. She doesn't want the recording played. All claims withdrawn for confidentiality. Fine. You sure? No compensation. I'm not here for money. She nodded. Then we're done. Back inside, we signed. Grace's hand shook. The gavel came down and months of noise ended with a thud. Linda touched my arm. It's over. Maybe. Endings never feel clean. They don't, she said. The city had already moved on. Grace's car waited at the curb. She climbed in without looking back. Ethan lingered. For a moment, I saw the boy who used to ask for help fixing things. Then he said, She'll hate you forever. She already did. He nodded once and left. Linda offered me a ride. I shook my head. I'll walk. She didn't press. Call tomorrow. By the time I reached home, the house felt too big again. The quiet didn't rest. It circled, touching every wall like something unfinished. Hours later, an email arrived from Linda. Settlement finalized. They've withdrawn everything. No attachments, no commentary. It should have felt like relief. Instead, it felt like closing a door in a house already empty. That night, I opened the mailbox for the first time in days. Bill's ads, one envelope from an old friend I hadn't heard from in years. A short note. Heard some of what happened. Just wanted you to know some of us remember the real you. No return address, just Tom's name from those poker nights long gone. It made me wonder how many people had watched from a distance, unsure whether to reach out or stay clean. The next morning I drove to the site. The crew worked in rhythm hammers, rising and falling. They nodded when I arrived, respectful, careful. People always treat you differently once your name's been in the news. I walked the grounds, checked measurements, signed off on supplies. Routine steadied me. Ethan showed up before lunch. He looked thinner, worn. Mind if we talk? Sure. We walked to the back lot where the noise faded. He kept his hands in his pockets. She's gone, he said. Grace moved out last night. Left a note, said she needs space. I nodded. She blames me, he went on. Says I didn't protect her. Says you poisoned everything. That sounds like her. He frowned. You're not even surprised I stopped being surprised a while ago. He sighed. Feels like everyone's watching, waiting for me to break. You might, I said. Then you'll stand up again. That's how it goes. You make it sound easy. It's not. But it's the only choice. He leaned on a stack of lumber. I used to think you were too proud. Too quiet. I never got why you let people walk over you. Now I think maybe I do. Do you... You were waiting, he said, for the right moment to remind everyone who you are. I shook my head. I was waiting to find myself again. He studied me. She told me you scared her not because you yelled, but because you didn't. She said your silence felt like a wall. That's funny, I said. It felt the same from her. He gave a tired laugh. Guess you two were more alike than you thought. Wind carried the smell of sawdust. We stood in it for a while. Then he said, I'm moving out, staying with a friend until I figure things out. That's smart. Do you hate her? No, I said. I don't waste hate on people who already live off it. He nodded. I think I still love her. Pathetic, huh? It's human, I said. It takes time to unlearn someone. He looked down. She said you never wanted me to be happy. I just wanted you to know the difference between happiness and convenience. He didn't answer. A truck pulled in, horn blaring. The moment broke. I should go, he said. Take care of yourself. He nodded and walked off. I watched until his car disappeared beyond the gate. The sound of hammers returned, filling the space he left. That evening, Linda called. Her family's selling the house, she said. Leaving town. Good for them. She'll rebuild somewhere else. People like her always do. Let her. Linda paused. And you, I don't know, I said. Maybe I just live. That's a start. After Linda hung up, I sat on the porch and thought of Ethan, his face, when he said he still loved her, the guilt behind it. Some wounds only dull with time. Rain returned that weekend, steady and deliberate. I spent the day fixing the porch steps I'd ignored for months. My hands ached, but I kept going until I realized I wasn't thinking about Grace or Ethan anymore. Just what needed replacing, and what could still be mended. When I finished, the phone buzzed on the counter. A text from Linda. They've dropped everything officially. You're clear. I typed back, thank you, then added, dinner's on me next week. Her reply came fast, I'll hold you to that. I smiled, a quiet one that didn't ask to be seen. Later, while making soup, I found the old folder with the contracts and receipts. I thought about throwing it out, then kept it not as proof, but as a reminder of how far things had stretched before they broke. The next day, Ethan called. His voice was tired. I moved out. Got a small place near Dorchester. It's quiet. That's good. I'm trying to start over, he said. Without her. Without all that noise. Starting over isn't about moving, I said. It's about changing what you ask yourself. He laughed faintly. You sound like Grandpa. He used to tell me the same thing. A pause. Then I never thanked you for standing up for yourself. I didn't get it then. I think I do now. You don't owe me that, I said. Just live better. That's the plan. The next morning I drove to the coast. The sky was pale, the water restless. I walked the pier until the wind caught my jacket. Fishermen stood at the far end, quiet, focused on their lines. I leaned against the railing, letting the waves speak, for everything words had failed. The ocean doesn't care who's right or wrong. It just keeps moving. Standing there, I thought of all the years spent proving worth to family, to myself, and how small it all seemed once quiet settled in. Back home, the mailbox held a small padded envelope. No return address. A photo Ethan and me years ago carrying boxes into his first apartment, both of us grinning like the world was still easy. On the back, someone had written, "Don't forget what you've already built." I set it on the fridge beside the old fishing picture. Two fragments of the same truth: people change, but love leaves traces whether you want it to or not. That evening, Linda showed up with takeout. You weren't kidding about dinner, she said, dropping the bag on the counter. I figured you'd remind me. We ate quietly, talking about small things, work, weather, local gossip. It felt normal, unforced. At one point she glanced around. This place feels lighter than it used to. Maybe I finally let it breathe. Or maybe you did. After she left, the phone buzzed. Ethan, dinner. Soon my treat. I typed back, you cook, I'll bring dessert. The week passed quietly each day, blending into the next. I fixed small things, squeaky doors, uneven shelves, a leaky faucet. It wasn't work, just motion that kept life steady. On Friday, Linda stopped by with a folder. She waited until I handed her coffee. "Everything's finalized," she said. "Accounts closed, contracts archived. You're free." The word free didn't land how she meant. I nodded anyway. "So that's it. That's it. You can breathe again. I'm still learning how." She smiled. "You will." After she left, I sat at the table staring at the folder she'd forgotten to take. Neat copies of every document, each page stamped resolved. I slid it into a drawer, letting the sound of it closing mark an ending I didn't need to revisit. That evening, Ethan called. "Grace reached out," he said. I waited. She apologized, said she's in therapy trying to understand her patterns. Good for her. She asked if I'd forgive her. "What did you say?" I told her forgiveness isn't invitation. That made me smile. Smart answer. "I don't hate her," he said. "I just don't see her the same. You don't have to erase someone to outgrow them. Still wish it ended different." "Most endings do," I said. He paused. "I used to think you were cold. Now I get it, you were just tired of performing for people who never listened." The truth hit deeper than I expected. It takes time to learn the difference between peace and silence. I think I'm learning. We talked another hour, his new apartment work, the small life he was rebuilding. His voice sounded lighter. When the call ended, I let the quiet settle again. The next morning, I drove to the old construction site that had become a community center. Kids ran across the court that used to be mud. The walls I'd framed years ago still held solid and unremarkable. An older man sweeping the entrance paused. "You used to work here," I did. He nodded toward the building. "You did something right. This place stays full." I thanked him and left his words staying with me. Maybe that was enough to build something that lasted after the noise was gone. At home, the mailbox held one envelope from the catering company, the same one from the wedding. I almost tossed it, but opened it anyway. Inside was a note. "We heard what happened. You did the right thing. People don't forget dignity when they see it up close." I folded it and left it on the counter. That night, I cooked a simple dinner, poured a glass of wine, and turned on the old radio. A soft song drifted through one I barely remembered. I left it playing. The phone buzzed. Ethan again. A photo of his apartment. "Still needs furniture, but it's a start." I typed back, "Starts are all that matter." His reply came, "Quick dinner next week. Bring Linda." I laughed and set the phone down. The thought of a meal without explanations felt new. Ethan showed up Sunday morning without calling. I was out back sanding wood for a shelf when I saw his car pull in. He got out slowly, holding a paper bag that smelled of coffee and something warm. "Brought breakfast," he said, lifting it like a peace offering. We ate at the kitchen table. Neither of us spoke for a while, and it wasn't the old, heavy kind of quiet. It was the kind that comes when there's finally nothing left to argue about. Ethan glanced around. "You've fixed the place up. Had time." He tore a piece of bread. "Thinking about moving again. Maybe Maine. Somewhere quiet near the water. You always liked the coast." He nodded. "Strange thing when I picture the future now she's not in it. Used to scare me. Now it just feels clean." "That's how endings work," I said. "They stop hurting when you stop rehearsing them." He smiled faintly. "You should write that down. No one reads advice from old men." After breakfast, we moved a few boards into the shed. When we finished, he leaned against the fence. "Do you ever regret any of it?" "Regret's not the word," I said. "I wish it hadn't been necessary, but I don't regret doing what was right." "I think I understand that now." He checked his watch. "I should go. Got a shift later. Take some bread with you, you'll forget to eat." He smiled, bag in hand. "You seem lighter lately. Maybe I stopped carrying things that weren't mine. He paused at the door. See you soon, Dad. When his car disappeared, the quiet returned, familiar, but softer. I spent the afternoon finishing the shelf. It came together easily, maybe because I wasn't chasing perfection, just strength. Later, Linda called. Ran into Ethan. He looks good. He's figuring it out. So are you. Maybe. You never said what you'll do now. Probably keep building things, I said. Simple ones that stay where you put them. That sounds about right. We talked a while longer about small things that didn't need meaning. After she hung up, I stayed still listening to the click before setting the phone down. By evening, the house smelled of pine and varnish. The hum of lawn mowers and a distant bird call slipped through ordinary sounds that somehow felt new. I ate a sandwich standing by the sink, watching a kid race a bike down the hill. Life had gone on without me, and I was finally catching up. The shelf's varnish had dried smooth. I ran my hand along it, no splinters. It wasn't perfect, but it held. The phone buzzed. Linda had sent a photo of a dinner table for two. You still owe me that meal, I replied Tuesday night. My place. Her answer came fast. Deal. The morning felt calm light in a way I hadn't known for months. After breakfast, I sat on the porch with coffee watching a neighbor's dog chase leaves along the fence. Linda arrived around noon, a paper bag in hand. You're cooking tonight, she said, setting it on the counter. I thought I was buying, I said. Buying's too easy, she replied. You need to use that kitchen for something other than coffee. We unpacked the groceries, vegetables, pasta, a bottle of wine. Linda rinsed tomatoes while I lined up the spices. You still organize them like evidence, she said, laughing. Control what you can, label what you can't. You've been lighter lately, she said. Maybe I stopped proving I'm fine, I said. Pretending takes more work than fixing what's real. We moved easily around the kitchen like people who'd done this 100 times, even though we hadn't. I stirred the sauce. She chopped onions with surgeon-like precision. The smell filled the room, simple food, nothing forced. While the pasta boiled, Linda leaned on the counter. Ethan texted this morning. Asked for your soup recipe. I told him it was classified. He's cooking now. Tired of takeout, apparently. That's how it starts, one meal at a time. We ate by the window, talking about her cases, small-town news, the kind of details that made time pass softly. When she poured the last of the wine, she asked, You ever think about what you'd be doing if none of this happened? Sometimes, I said. But then I remember it did. It taught me to stop giving people discounts on my worth. She nodded. That's worth keeping. We sat a while without speaking. Light stretched across the floor, dust drifting through it like slow breath. When she stood to clear the table, I started to help, but she waved me off. You cooked. I'll handle this. I leaned back, listening to the sound of running water. Her movements settled easily into the space like they'd always belonged there. When she dried her hands, she said, You know, for a man who claimed he didn't need anyone, you're good at company. Maybe I just needed the right kind. She smiled. Maybe. After she left, I walked the block once. Back home, I picked up the photo of Ethan and me from the fridge, the fishing one, and this time it didn't ache. It simply was. I made tea and sat at the table. The shelf I'd built held steady books, a mug, the note from the caterer. Every piece had its story, none of them heavy anymore. The phone buzzed. Made your soup. Didn't burn the kitchen. I smiled. Progress. Send proof. A blurry photo came back, a pot steam, a crooked smiley face. Next time you're coming over, he wrote. Deal, I typed. The clock ticked beside me. I traced its rhythm with a fingertip. No revelation waited, just the calm that follows what once felt unbearable. A car passed headlights, sweeping the porch before fading. Wind chimes stirred faintly somewhere down the street. I finished my tea, washed the cup, and left it to dry. The house was quiet again, but no longer empty. I turned off the kitchen light, walked down the hall, and let the night find its own pace around me.